this straight. I say I don't want to work with males anymore in my private practice because they activate my nervous system and I don't feel safe. And their response is to threaten to unalive me by threatening my livelihood, saying that there's groups of y'all that are reporting me to my licensing board because I don't want to work with y'all. Y'all ain't want to work with me anyway. So what y'all talking about? Y'all are reporting me to my licensing board for saying I specialize in working with Black women who overcome perfectionism. Did you know that therapists are allowed to have specializations? Did you know that when we are in school, our instructors ask us, what is your target population? Who would you like to work with? Focus on them. Did you know that? It's people leaving me reviews saying that I'm racist, saying that I shouldn't work with Black men, saying that when they were my client, they felt this type of way, blah, blah, blah. These folks have never even seen me. I don't know these people. So y'all just sitting up here lying on me. Why would you do that? They're calling my business line saying they want to slice off my face, they want to unalive me, they want to essay me. I should be... You really think I want to work with men now? No. Then on Twitter, y'all posting a picture of my profile for therapy for Black men. Yeah, that's me. But I'm no longer seeing males because of the things that I've said previously. And my profile is still up there because I paid my $20 for the month. I'm waiting on them to stop my subscription. I just made this announcement last week. Y'all gonna give me some time? Where is the energy for the male therapists who only see men? Because I don't see y'all out here acting like this towards them. I encourage you, I implore you to find a male therapist that's a good fit for you.
And those liberal ideologies are not consistent with the mentality, the well-being, and the humanity of men, but particularly Black men. Then it becomes a problem because what you're doing, you're perpetuating the thing that you said you vowed not to do, which is to do no harm to human beings, and be willing to serve a population that's underserved. Black men are an underserved population. Historically, we have been underserved, and also historically, Black people have never seen therapy as a how can I say, a solvent to help them deal with a lot of the issues that they are dealing with. That's why a lot of times men don't go to Black female therapists, or men don't go to therapy at all, because they have their own stigmas or preconceived notions about the therapeutic process. Mm-hmm. But the therapeutic process, Shay, is very powerful once you get a therapist that can work with you. That therapist's worldview is congruent with your worldview. Like, I'm more of a traditionalist therapist. I mean, I believe in traditionalism and family, and not saying I won't work with other populations per se, but I feel that my practice and my specialty will be more around, Black male issues. That's why I use the kosher clinicians like a synthetic way to talk about urban issues while inculcating some therapeutic concepts. And so, if you take it to a whole, I'm being a little tangential right there, but, one would argue that's why the passport movement is becoming so proliferate, so powerful, because it's an alternate form of therapy for men to get their needs met, because many times here in the confines of America, their needs are not getting met, sadly. So that's my take on it.
Well, okay. I think my question didn't really hit right. So I'll condense.
Yeah, I didn't hear the question getting changed.
So it's this thing called the passport, bro. It's just like this whole movement going abroad and pursuing women there who are more traditional. Let me just say more traditional, opposed to women in the United States. Clearly, women out here, specifically Black women, are feeling some type of way, but they don't know how to really be real about it. They don't really know how to be real about it. You really should be thinking, okay, this is not most of the male population, but it is starting to become a thing where men are stepping out of the U.S. Men are stepping out ethnicities. Men are tired of United States women. We should be trying to see what we can do to keep them here. I would think, what can we do to keep them here? That's what the mindset should be. Not giving all this bashing attitude like that's going to make them stay.
Listen, the universe has been setting me up with Spanish men. Clearly, it hasn't been working out. I'm done. I want a Black man. A delicious dark, tall, funny, athletic, big man.
Before there was the manosphere, I was. Before there was the internet, I was. I was that Sigma male crying out in the wilderness for justice and equality for those that are downtrodden and broken, those that are voiceless. I was the kosher clinician before I was the kosher clinician on the internet. My plight and my war cry for justice and humanity is nothing fake, but I've always been kosher. And sit back and get this kosher fire. Hello everyone. Is there equality in America, fact or fantasy? First of all, I would like to salute all fellow human beings and most graciously those who are beacons of light for justice and righteousness. To vocally explain the tenets of equality, fact or fantasy, I must begin with the combination of two alphabets, I and F, which spells there's no respect of person, but gives protection to all them that fear him. So therefore I ask you this profound and non-scholastic question. If there was equality in America, will I be standing here today? You decide, fact or fantasy. All right.
This is kosherclinician. 7 wonders, the whole world gotta listen. This is kosherclinician. 7 wonders, the whole world gotta listen. This is kosherclinician.
Fire! The kosher clinician.
If it ain't 7, it ain't kosher. Heaven and hell, that's what they told you. Real men put the strap down and we can toss them. Young heads picking back up and young dolphins. This is our culture. Now we talking kosher. Clinician, masculinity issues. Absent fathers who miss you. Mama drama don't kiss you. All a part of the ritual. This is how they get you. Separate the men, women, clipping babies pretend to. Damn. Lovers, haters, acting like vultures. If it ain't 7, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, ain't right, gotta divorce us. If it ain't 7, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, ain't right, gotta divorce us. If it ain't 7, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, ain't right, gotta divorce us. This is kosherclinician. 7 wonders, the whole world gotta listen. This is kosherclinician. 7 wonders, the whole world gotta listen. This is kosherclinician. 7 wonders, the whole world gotta listen. This is kosherclinician. 7 wonders, the whole world gotta listen. Listen. Listen.
All right, guys, we're about to start in a minute, and thank you to the 24 that are tuning in on tonight. But the topic of discussion would be the clinical therapist, Nicole Lewis, as she talks about having her nervous system activated because she have a disdain for black men. We're going to explore the dynamics behind Mrs. Lewis' pathology about black men, and we're going to ask ourselves the question, is what Ms. Lewis saying, is it salient or more or less viable, or is it more or less a breach of contract as it relates to doing what's best for therapists, but also for other black men? Sit back, relax, and enjoy this show as I bring it to you live from the greatest state in the union, the Tar Heel State. And I need you men to understand this as we explore the dynamics between Nicole Lewis and her disdain for black male clients. If it ain't 7, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, it ain't right. Get your pens and paper ready, guys, and let's do it. There's an old cliche that says the more things change, the more they remain the same. Do some black women have animus towards black men? And if so, these black female therapists, should they be in practice, or should they be in practice under the guise of supervision to help them do the work for the biases that they have towards black men. Let's do it. All right, thank you guys for tuning in on tonight, and we're about to get started as I'm your host, the Kosher Clinician. Now listen, what's going on with Nicole Lewis, guys? What's going on with Nicole Lewis? And in the meantime, guys, get the likes up for me, share the stream, and if you feel led, donate to the channel as we talk about this current therapist and her disdain for black men. Now, I did a poll, and based on the poll, about 11 men voted, and out of those 11 men that voted, they all said that they had a problem with dealing with black female therapists. And that's a problem because according to the Code of Ethics, you should do what's beneficent to the population that you're dealing with. And if you do have issues with other populations, you should either refer them out, but you should never more or less work with somebody if you got biases or disdain for someone based on overgeneralization, but also based on distress based on what happened in your past. And see, guys, this show is going to be very important because passports are becoming an alternate form of therapy consistent with sublimation, which is a psychological term, which basically means when you have negative impulses to do something bad, you turn around and do something good. And it's problematic if some of the men that are listening have had issues with women that have more or less taken an oath or more or less supposed to be adhering to the Code of Ethics. Now watch this. A person has a right to see whatever population they want to say. They have a right to say it. But when she messed up at, she went live and she overgeneralized all black men and more or less, which is a thinking error, and she more or less said that she could not see black men for whatever reason. And that's a problem when you put all black men in a negative light and you have issues towards those men because therapists are supposed to be part of the helping profession. And if you can't work with a certain population, you have a mandate to not see them, but what you shouldn't do is continue to do harm by publicly causing these men to have schemas based on your rejection of those said men. Therapists are not perfect. Therapists are human. We are clinicians. We are technicians like doctors and any other profession. And sometimes therapists need therapy just like doctors need doctors. We're human beings. We can make bad mistakes as well. And that's why people must do the work, the shallow work, before they attempt to more or less, impact or deal with other populations. But sadly, some of these women, because they have been in institutions that are more or less been taught under the feminist theory lens, it basically the feminist theory lens, guys, is the lens that's built under or predicated on women being oppressed by men. And so what that does, it feeds the narrative that men are bad, that black men are bad, all men are bad. And that's a problem because listen, I know that all women are not bad. There's some good sisters in the midst of the bad and the negative and the dangerous ones. But I would never say all black women, or I would never deal with all black women, because that's a thinking error called overgeneralization. They are overgeneralization or overgeneralizing black men. And sometimes, guys, even therapists will use therapy as a means to help their ego. Some therapists have narcissistic tendencies, and some get in the profession to build their ego. Some feel like this was a stunt, and I don't know. And so I'm not here to judge Ms. Lewis, but I'm here to look at this thing through the critical lens to see where she erred at, and if she should have went publicly and said that black men activate her nervous system. And I'm sure that was offensive to some of you black men that are listening, because one person will say that black men activate their nervous system. And so she took whatever issue she had with black men from the past and she castigated towards all black men. And that's a problem, and that's something that should never happen. Shout out to my man XL Pro for the $5 super sticker. I appreciate it, XL Pro. And that is Dynamite. Thank you, XL Pro. I appreciate it, brother. Thank you, sir.
You got the number right,
because you are
talking to kid a dynamite. You're dynamite.
Thank you, XL Pro, for being dynamite on tonight. And also shout out to my man Black Sword 404. He said a black man can't heal in a place he was hurting. Yes, sir. And that's why I'm here as a kosher clinician, to bring truth to the issue that so many young men are dealing with. Now, listen, guys, if you guys have a question, if you got a comment, donate to the channel and I'll read your comment out loud. And thank you once again to the 39 that are tuning in, as we're going to get deep into this on tonight. Now, Shay Sade did a great job, guys. I'm breaking this thing down. She did a great job. Shout out to Shay Sade. But watch this. Because so many men are going through distress, so many men are dealing with issues in America, the passport has become therapy for so many men. A lot of men are getting passports because they can't find peace, even in a system that was designed to help them with their pain. So some are using passports as a way to help them, find peace and get resolved over the lack of affection. And I don't have a problem with it. And so the fact that 89% of the men, based on the poll, said that they've had bad experience with female therapists out of 18 votes, that's a problem. 89% said no, they had bad experiences, and that's a problem. And that's something we should look into when it comes down to therapists reassessing themselves and making sure they don't have any biases when it comes down to dealing with a certain population. So in the meantime, guys, share the stream. Thank you guys for tuning in. Donate to the channel once again if you guys like what I'm doing. And we're going to get deeper into it, guys. Shout out once again to Shay Sade. And if you got any questions, as I said earlier, please read them out as we get deeper into the show and as we look at the conversation. Once again, because of XL Pro, he is the number one sponsor of the stream for the 5. Thank you, XL Pro, as you are the number one sponsor for the stream, sir. Thank you, sir. All right, so have you guys been impacted by black female therapists? And if you have been impacted, what has it done to you mentally? What has it done to you mentally based on the rejection of some of the women that are therapists, and they use their platforms or use what they've been taught to more or less spew distress or disdain? And there are some that say they feel like Miss Lewis did it intentionally. I'm not here to judge whether she did it intentionally for attention. She could have done it for attention. But I'm just here to present the evidence, guys, and to break down what Shay talked about as I was on her show. And we're going to break down this pathology of Mrs. Nicole Lewis and why this is problematic, because I do deem it problematic, guys, for a person to call themselves a therapist, but they got a problem. Shout out to my man Lavelle Robinson for the 100 DOP. Your session is about to meet. Your sessions is about them to meet their personal. No doubt, that's true.
Hello, lucky person. You got the number right, because you are talking to Kid a Dynamite. Pure Dynamite.
All right, appreciate it. So, guys, we're going to get deep into it on tonight. We're about to get deep into it. I'm going to pull up the screen from Shay Sade. I was on her platform the other night. And we're going to look at this Nicole Lewis. But in the meantime, let's look at Nicole Lewis's diatribe and her issues with black men. And we're going to see what's going on with Nicole Lewis and her issues against black men and why this is problematic, to say the least. All right, so let's look into it, guys. All right, so Nicole Lewis is a LCSW like myself. She's a licensed clinical social worker. LCSWs have a very broad profession. We can do more than LPCs and other professions, and that's not to denigrate the others, but MSWs or LCSWs are broader because we can work at the federal level, the macro level, and any level because our background is more broader. But we're gonna look into this Nicole Lewis and her issues with black men and why so many are similar to Nicole Lewis. And so Nicole Lewis, this is what she said that caused a lot of men to be in distress. Nicole Lewis said this, guys. She said that I specialize in working with black women overcoming perfectionism, so that I will be focusing on. She said, I'm no longer accepting male clients. They get in my email inbox and want me to prove why they should choose me as a therapist. Now listen, she does have a right to see whatever population she needs to see. But to totally castigate a population of men and judge all men is not consistent with the code of ethics. You can't specialize in seeing one population, but you should be open to seeing other populations and try to see what their issues are. If you got issues based on your past, you need to get help. Because sometimes women that have issues with black men is based on daddy issues and is based on relationship issues from the past. And what they do, they project based on countertransference. Countertransference is a technique or a concept that we use in the therapeutic world. And it basically means when the therapists are dealing with people or situations that remind them of a place where they were broken or hurt. And so she should get help and get therapy in the areas where she's broken and reassess her desire and the need to work with certain populations of men. I can say she said that she was working with aggressive men or a certain type, but to castigate all black men, that's a problem. But she said, I'm no longer accepting male clients. They get in my email inbox and want me to prove why they should choose me as a therapist. No scheduled consultations or nothing to see if we are a good fit. I'm not the one or two to prove my worth to anyone. What do you men think about that based on your limited information about this? And sadly, a lot of these women go to schools and become indoctrinated to think that men are bad. We will not work well together because of you already trying me. I'm not above going AWF on nobody. I don't know what she mean by AWF. What does AWF mean, guys? If you're trying me before the therapeutic relation starts, I know you are out here being a menace to folks. And that's going to activate my nervous system. So now it's a wrap. So it sounds like this woman has some issues and she has some issues with healing. But also, guys, here's the problem. Sadly, some of our women don't even have any empathy towards black men in general. They don't even have empathy towards black men, and they co-sign based on whatever issues they've been through. The lady, Miss Williams, she said this: I read this on the Shade Room and instantly follow you because I wanted to stand with you in support of your decision. I say someone say it's unethical to refuse to service people in our field, but I don't believe that. But imagine if a black man say, I don't service black women because black women are ratchet. Imagine if a therapist said, I don't serve another particular population because they are ignorant. That would be a problem. She said, as a counselor in training who have been working in the mental health field for 4 years, I have referred clients to my colleagues if it was not comfortable working with them. But she got to ask herself the question, if she's overgeneralizing, does she have any biases towards certain male populations? That does not mean it does not mean you're weak. It means that you are protecting yourself and your client. I applaud you for standing on what you said and setting boundaries. What do you guys think about what she's saying? What do you guys think about it? Because some will say that it's problematic, and I personally agree with it because it is problematic, as we are live, that this woman is castigating all black men and putting them in a negative light. Once again, guys, share the stream, donate to the channel if you have not donated, and hit Cash App $7 Smalls if you will. I appreciate it. Thank you guys for tuning in once again. But let's get back to Miss Lewis. She said, another therapist, a witty therapist, say, hey, I found you from the viral post. I'm here to show my support. 10 toes down with you, my sister. You set a boundary. If they don't like it, there's help for that. But that makes no sense because what she's doing, you're castigating all black men. That means grandpas, that means little boys, that means middle-aged men or men your age. And that's a problem, and that's unethical. Because even though you have a right to work in specialty populations, you should be open to seeing other populations as well. And see, guys, this is a problem that a lot of guys say when it comes down to the sisterhood. They feel that the sisterhood supports its own, but only want black men to come back as it relates to servitude, but never in power. And we're not saying all, but sadly, more than less have this animus towards black men. Joy in my soul, two souls say in this one on the Shade Room, it says I couldn't comment here. I'm here to stand with you as a therapist who actually terminated my practice after I was assaulted. I wholeheartedly understand how you feel and what you mean. And I understand the need for safety and all of that. But once again, and I understand they're women and they fear for their safety, but you still can't castigate all black men in a negative light. You deal with each client from an individual basis instead of seeing all clients in a negative light. She said, people forget we are human and our jobs are not a physical practice. It's emotional and spiritual. A doctor can refuse to treat male patients because he is treating the body. We're treating the mind, and sometimes we're not equipped or comfortable addressing male issues to move forward in our own trauma. Now, I would say, I appreciate this woman's honesty. But if you're dealing with your own traumas, you need to get work or do a continuation of work before you start working with populations in general. She said, I would say this conversation to process, this is the conversation to process and supervision with a colleague, because what you write on social media lives here and can affect your license. I agree with Joy to so. She's right. This woman had a right to say what she wanted to say. And, but she should have never posted that online because you're overgeneralizing a population, and that's a problem. Another woman said, been defending you all day. They picked the right bone with the wrong one today. Ethics, God, and community got you right. And you see what I'm talking about. Another therapist say, I 1,000% support therapists having boundaries. People treat us wrong before we even start getting service, and people get mad at us for talking about it. Guys, if you want to add to the conversation, you want to add to the conversation or got a question, feel free to send a Cash App or Super Chat, and I will read your comment aloud. Therapy with Gwen said, 100% got your back on this, no explanation. Boundaries are what make you kick-ass clinicians and social workers, and those of us that follow you benefit from providing pre-education.
Someone else said they wouldn't be in a black male's doctor inbox quizzing and interviewed them prior. Yeah, but see, what people don't understand, I don't know how invasive of what these men were saying. I don't know how invasive it was. But it becomes problematic once again when you're castigating a whole population of men. That's a problem, guys. That's a problem when you're castigating a whole population of men. That is a problem, guys. And that should never happen because you're taking innocent black men and overgeneralize them based on the misgivings of few. You should look at every man case by case instead of looking at them as a whole. And that's a serious problem, guys. That's a serious problem. And Ms. Lewis needs work. And if she did believe that, like say if I said I didn't want to work with a certain population, I'm not going to put it live because it goes against the code of ethics. The code of ethics say do what's benevolent or beneficent to the patient. The Hippocratic Oath said, do the patient no harm. Now, by her posting this, she could, in a reverse way, be impacting other men and hurting them counterintuitively. And that's a problem. And you see, guys, you see the yes brigade. You see all the sisters saying yes, yes. And that's why so many black men are getting passports to find women that have been trained in traditional cultures to support and respect them. This woman said, she said, when I say no to these types of men, they act like it's my laws. No, the instant gratification and look and hook up generation has some hard lessons to come. The next person said, when you're the boss, you got the right to choose. And you do got the right to choose, but you don't have a right to judge or overgeneralize every black person or every black man. That's not consistent with the code of ethics. Because our profession is a helping profession. If there's somebody you're dealing with have a worldview contrary to yours, sometime it might be best to deal with another colleague or another supervisor or another person that's over you. Because therapists are human too. But it's sadly, you see what men are seeing, guys. You see women that support one another and they don't support the black man or the black community until it's in the spirit of servitude. And that's the problem. Let me read out some of these super chats real quick. Thank you guys for tuning in. Shout out to my man, Raphael. He said, Raphael Williams. He said, passport, gang, no doubt. I appreciate it, man. And that's a deal, right?
That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right?
And then also shout out.
Got 5 on it.
And then also shout out to my man, Lavelle Robinson. He said, Miss Andrew is misogyny. Shout out to him. You're right. It's misogyny. You're right. Miss Andrew is misogyny. I agree with you 1,000% because it sounds like it's a hatred of men. And Passport OG from Raphael Williams, because of your love offering, brother, you are now, brother, the number one sponsor of this stream. And I appreciate it. Thank you, sir. All right, guys, we're going to get back into it as we are live on the night from the greatest state in the union, the Tar Heel State. This friend's reading some of the comments of some of these female therapists, and it's giving credence to what we're saying and how some of our women are not in alliance with black men, but they're only in alliance with themselves. This woman said, Miss West said, they don't want healing. They don't want help. They want to play games. Like, black women don't come into therapy, or women in general, or human beings in general, do the same thing. Once again, overgeneralizing. And it's all cute and funny when they young and being players. But shit gets real when they 49 looking on the hunt for nurses to take care of them with all the health problems they're facing. I knew a guy that had 2 women in the hospital when he was dying of cancer. He stayed 10 toes down on foolishness until the end, until one girl got up and left when she asked him what was going on. And there was another woman there. They do not want help. Well, what does helping in nursing got to do with mental health? That doesn't make any sense. And it's still overgeneralizing because you have not more or less dealt with all black men. You're only talking from your anecdotal experience. And that's foolishness. Now, let's go and see what Miss why she said what she was saying. Hold tight.
I am accepting new therapy and coaching clients. So you can book a 15-minute consultation on my website. This is our time for us to get to know each other. Not just for me to ask you questions about what's been going on, but you can also ask me questions about how I feel about certain things if I have.
And guys, look at this. According to what my man Lavelle said, and I agree with Lavelle, it does look like misandry. It's nothing wrong with supporting black women, having a love for women and girls and all that. I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with it. But imagine if I base my whole practice on saying I only see black men, black boys, and I'm not going to see nobody else. I'm not open to seeing no one else. Look at it. You guys see it. You guys see it for yourselves. And this more or less fuels the conversation of fuel why men are saying because of liberal indoctrination and radicalization that black men are saying, you know what, we don't get respect, or a percentage of black men, the hard-working, decent ones, are saying we don't get no respect. And I'm going to get a passport and go to a culture where there are patriarchs and where the men are honored and the men are valored. And what your guys seeing now is the manifestation of misogyny or misandry towards black men, because she took her experiences and her pain and more or less applied it to all black men, which is an affront to the profession.
I have worked with people with this disorder or with these symptoms or behaviors. You can ask me if I incorporate religion or spirituality within our sessions. You can ask me where I was on January 6th. You can ask me all kind of stuff. I'm super open. I encourage people to book a consultation if you really want to work with me. If we mesh well together, let's go. Let's get started. But if we don't, that's okay. I can help you find somebody else. Whether it's with me or someone else, you still deserve quality care. I also have a membership waitlist for Black women's mental health. In this membership, we're going to be joining other Black women who may have mental health stuff going on, who want to be in community with other Black women, who may be struggling in some areas. This membership is super important to me. I can't wait to get started, and I can't wait to see you inside the membership. Y'all done made me open my books back up. I am accepting new therapy and coaching clients. So you can book a 15-minute consultation on my website. This is our time for us to get to know each other. Not just for me to ask you questions about what's been going on, but you can also ask me questions about how I feel about certain things if I have worked with people with this disorder or with these symptoms or behaviors. You can ask me if I incorporate religion or spiritual.
Now, this is part of it, but I think this was the crux that made her go viral and made her talk about her issues with black men. Guys, tell me what you think with this. Hold tight.
I say I don't want to work with males anymore in my private practice because they activate my nervous system and I don't feel safe. This woman said males activate her nervous system. She said black men activate her nervous system, man. And you're judging all, and so what this does, this feeds the narrative that all black men, we know you got some violent men like you got violent women, but this feeds the narrative that all black men are bad and that all black men have issues. And look at this simp, the male feminist. We're gonna read his talking points as well. This simp here, look at this simp. Basically, throw all black men under the bus at the expense of protecting the queen. But I'm gonna read that as well. But hold tight. Let's get back into it. Hold tight. To threaten to unalive me by threatening my livelihood, saying that there's groups of y'all that are reporting. Well, listen, there have been women that have threatened my livelihood. There have been women that had issues with me. But not one time did I say I'm not working with all black women, because I know all black women are not bad. There are some goofy black women. There are some women that got black women with issues. But I'm not going to judge all black women and not give some black women a chance. I look at every person case by case.
But sadly, this woman has a lot of unresolved trauma and unresolved healing because she appears to be projecting her pain to all black men. Hold tight.
Ordered me to my licensing board because I don't want to work with y'all. Y'all ain't want to work with me anyway. So what y'all talking about? Y'all are reporting me to my licensing board for saying I specialize.
Shout out to my man, Passport OG for the 800 yen. He said, this is little prejudice. It's amazing, no doubt. I appreciate it. And you are dynamite.
Person.
Appreciate
you
the Passport
got the
OG.
number right,
Sir.
because you are talking to kid a dynamite. Pure dynamite.
All right, guys, back into it. We're going to get back into it. But, guys, you're beginning to see the misandry from this woman. Out of the 37 votes, I asked the question, have your experience with black female therapists been good? 24% said yes, but 76% out of 37 said no. And that's still over 50%. And that's a problem, guys. That is a problem. Hold tight.
In working with black women who overcome perfectionism. Did you know that therapists are allowed to have specializations? Did you know that when we are in school, our instructors ask us, what is your target population? Who would you like to work with? Focus on them. Did you know that? It's people leaving me reviews saying that I'm racist, saying that I shouldn't work with black men, saying that when they were my client, they felt this type of way, blah, blah, blah. These folks have never even seen me. I don't know these people.
But what you don't understand, Miss Lewis, to the people that you are seeing, you could be reopening trauma to those men that had traumatic experiences due to abandonment from their mothers. Because just like therapists give countertransference, clients give transference as well. And so what you're doing, even if you believe that, you shouldn't post it live in social media. You should keep that to yourself or talk about it amongst your girlfriends. But you shouldn't go live because now you are incriminating yourself, which is antithetical to the profession. Because the profession said do what's beneficent. And you should be open to working with populations. Yes, you can work with girls and women. That's your right. But you should also be open to working with other populations as well.
So y'all just sitting up here lying on me. Why would you do that? They're calling my business line saying they want to slice off my face. They want to unalive me. They want to essay me. I should be... You really think I want to work with men now? No. Then on Twitter, y'all posting a picture of my profile for therapy for black men. Yeah, that's me. But I'm no longer seeing males because of the things that I've said previously. And my profile is still up there because I paid my $20 for the month. I'm waiting on them to stop my subscription. I just made this announcement last week. Y'all gonna give me some time? Where is the energy for the male therapists who only see men? Because I don't see y'all out here acting like this towards them. I encourage you, I implore you to find a male therapist that's a good fit for you. So let me get this straight. I say...
All right, so let's read through some of the comments, man, because some will say she should get a license taken. Well, technically, she hasn't done anything illegal. She hasn't done anything illegal per se. But what she's doing is unethical in a sense that's it's not looking good for the profession. One will argue she hasn't done anything that will warrant her getting revoked, but some could argue her getting censored. The worst case scenario is that she could probably lose her job. But if she worked for herself, it's really nothing you can do, I don't think, because she haven't done anything illegal. She hasn't done anything to her clients unless the black male clients that she's seen and she called their names out and talked about them publicly, then she could get sued and potentially had her license revoked. So say if she worked with John Doe and she talked about John Doe public on a forum, then she could probably get a license revoked, or she did something to a client. But this talking in general, I don't think she can. But this is what happened, guys, when y'all get black male feminists. Look at this black male feminist. He says, a black man mental health advocate, self-care advocate, and black women advocate, I fully support you in choosing to specialize in women overcoming perfectionism. It is very much needed area, and I'm sure will attract a multitude of clients, allow for you more peaceful thrive as a therapist. I will say that it's not your decision to choose this area as a specialization that anyone should take issues with, but it's an ostracizing that occurred against black men as an entire demographic from what you shared. And I agree with him on that. And you can't call out a whole black demographic. Granted, what you share may well be your 100% true, but to share it publicly in this manner, which it was presented, seen to broad stroke black men in a very negative light. And that's why some black men feel that a percentage, we didn't say all, but a percentage of our women are agents of white supremacy. Some will call her, shout out to Dennis Sperling, KK Keisha. They will call her KK Keisha because it appears that she's an agent to white supremacy. Because what you're doing, you are sharing a negative light to all black men. No one should be threatening any type of harm to you because of what you said. My take is that highlighting your chosen, especially publicly, could occur without everybody else, without everything else that was said. Black men are the least, yes, that's exactly what I said, guys. Listen to what I just said. Black men are the least represented as mental health professionals, meaning that oftentimes in finding a therapist we feel comfortable with, a black woman is often the therapist selected by black men, right? Because it's not a lot of black male therapists. I'm rare. You don't find a lot of black male therapists. It's rare, especially masculine black male therapists. And now I'm not a woke therapist. I'm a rational therapist. He said consultations are often offered by therapists to allow clients to get an understanding of their therapeutic approach and assess levels of comfort with the practitioner being considered. This can be very important to those who are new to the therapeutic process and often shy away from it altogether. Black men often being at the top of the list, nothing but love, but anyone threatening you is a coward. And he said that's when he come in. I respect him for that. So maybe I spoke too fast. I think this guy was fair. So I'm not gonna call him a simp. I take that back. But he did add clarity to it. So I'll take that back. But more or less, guys, y'all are seeing the foolishness. It's always under the guise of seeing black men as violent. And what this does, this more or less perpetuate the stereotype that black men are violent men. And what she's doing is she's doing harm because she's perpetuating a negative cycle about black men. And it's a problem. It's very much a problem. You know, and now this guy does appear to be a simp, an unconscious simp at that. He said, it looks to me that you've received more support than criticism on this post, and I hope that continues. I'm very sorry you have some black men who are so fragile and triggered, they lash out and can't see your decision as an act of personal and professional accountability. Each of us in this profession needs to know our limitations, respect them, and act accordingly. You're doing what you need to do for your health and your well-being. But sir, imagine if all black men said that towards all black women or any other group. And this person said, it looks like you're trying to do damage control. I hope you get a lawsuit for discrimination against men. That's what he said. Yeah. Guys, you got some more comments. Add to the super chat if you want me to read it out loud. But you guys are seeing where I'm going at. This is a problem. Now, this young lady is saying they also tell you in school that you have a right to say no and pass case on. They also tell us about setting boundaries. They also tell us it's okay to end with someone who's making you uncomfortable. They can report all they want. You said nothing wrong. Lastly, for anyone to seek therapy, then to ask the therapist what they bring to the table is wild and disrespectful. That's not wild. A client got a right, if they don't have a profile of a therapist, to ask them what they bring as it relates to a treatment model and what population they treat and why they got a right to ask that. Now, a client shouldn't be hostile, but they got a right to ask that. This is what this person said. As a therapist, not as a comedian, aka Goopar, you proved my point again. You said we help We don't lead. The client is in the driver's seat, leading their own life. We're the navigators of what person expresses they would like to go. We do not take our own thoughts and tell you what to do. It's written within the code of ethics. We suggest paths you could take, but ultimately it's the person's decision to make which way they want to lead themselves. Also, therapists have specialty. No one's obligated to see a special client. True. But yeah, guys, you see men are more in support of this woman, her foolishness, but Miss Lewis should have just kept this to herself. And she's definitely overgeneralizing. And most men see it as it's misandry, to say the least. They see it as misandry, to say the least. And guys, I don't want you guys to see therapy in a negative lens, because therapists can be very powerful if you get the right therapist and you get a therapist that can help you. And you got to ask the questions, and you got to ask the questions that you feel like are pertinent to helping you move forward. So don't see therapy in a negative light. All therapists don't operate under this lens like this woman operated under. All therapists don't operate under this lens. There are some therapists that operate in justice and beneficence. And beneficence basically means to do what's good and do what's right. I am a licensed therapist, and I count it a pleasure to serve black men and black boys, but I am open to serving certain populations if their worldview is not 100% against mine, or if I don't feel like I'm competent enough to treat some of the questions. I got the right to refer them out. I've worked with people that I didn't necessarily agree with, and I didn't believe with their worldview, but I still work with them. But if there were things that they were asking me to do that I felt uncomfortable, I didn't have enough knowledge in, I got a right to refer them out. But the fact that she says all black men activate her nervous system, that sounds like some unresolved trauma from her formative years, or even dealing with some relationships that she had in the past. And some of these women are dealing with relationships issues from the past that they haven't got resolved in. So let's look at what Shay said. Shay did a good job. I was on Shay's panel. She did a good job breaking this thing down. And we're going to break this thing down, guys, in a minute. And guys, if y'all have any questions y'all want to ask, feel free to do it. And I'll be more than willing to read it. Thank you guys for tuning in. Hold tight. So Shay asked the question, are black female therapists enemies of black men? And some would say yes. Shout out to Shay Sade. And she's talking about this woman. I was on the platform with Shay. Shout out to her. And are black female therapists enemies of black men? And some black men feel that way. Just listen.
That's insane. I'm like, what? But here's what I think this situation reveals. This is something I'm really coming to grips with. I think it talked around this idea a while back when I spoke with Dr. Tiazon and Terrain Walker.
So let's look at what Shay's talking about creating. Let's look at her talking about creating safe spaces for black men, because it appears that we don't create enough safe spaces for black men. So we're looking at it piece by piece, and I will intersect from time to time. Hold tight.
Yes. And this is this theme that I think I've just noticed in general, where women will say, look, we want men to open up, or we want men to be emotionally available. We're only going for emotionally available men. So these are all the different rules that women are putting out there. I'm like, okay, granted. But at the same time, they may go and do things or act in a way that is incredibly emasculating. And it shows me today that there is, I think just in general, there is this lack of understanding. And there's this resistance to the fact that at the end of the day, men, straight women operate differently. The way that we think is different, right? The way our emotions are processed is different. And I think sometimes, women, we can come in with this like superiority complex when it comes to our emotional well-being and our ability to set boundaries and our ability to be able to voice our expressions, whatever, and not understand that.
Shout out to my man, MC Recovering Wellness for the 2. I appreciate it. MC Recovering Wellness said this with a $2 super sticker. He said that kosher at my job, our therapists have therapists. Yes, therapists need therapy like doctors need doctors, and pastors need prayer, because we are human. Sometimes therapists can have thinking errors because we're still human. We've been trained, but we're still human. So sometimes other therapists need other therapists to point out their thinking errors so that they can be equitable to the target population they're dealing with. And so you are dynamite, brother, and I appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Hello,
lucky person. You got the number right, cause you are talking to Kid a Dynamite! Pure Dynamite!
All right, let's get back into it. Listen to what Shay is saying. And guys, if you've got any questions, feel free to donate and I'll read your responses. Thank you.
Men have emotions too, and the way they move with their emotions is different, and it's to be respected. But if we don't create space for them to do that, and then if they do try to get help, or if they do try to, look for help, we emasculate them in the process, or we demonize them, or we shame them in the process, then it's like we're now creating the problem, or we're leading to the problem. And so I've seen this theme a lot, and I think this situation was a prime example of how Black women can say in one instance they want something, or say that they want to create a better space, or say they want to help, but then undermine their own progress, undermine their own success, undermine the very thing they say that they want. And so, again, a lot to unpack here. Yes, to stop the curb of radical feminists. Totally, completely agree here. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I have receipts. I'm just going to start by bringing up some of the different receipts that really caused this current therapist to come under fire.
Shout out to my man Otis. And I want to read what Brother Otis said. Hold tight.
This really starts to get into ultimately.
Brother Otis said that she's disingenuous. She was literally supporting the other therapist who got called out a few minutes ago prior for the same thing. She's trying to gaslight men because she wasn't expecting the blowback. I appreciate it, brother. Thank you, sir. And that is a deal, right? Thank you, sir.
That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? Got 5 on it.
The fact that you have a lot of women, and this is women in positions of power, right? Again, when you talk about misandry in the media, when you talk about misandry in some of these institution places, this is what men are starting to push back against. This is what men are trying to say, hey, we can't say a misandry is a myth. We can't say that it's fake. We can't say that it's false. When you have people in positions of power, whether it may be your healthcare professional, whether it may be, I don't know, an editor of a major news source. You have people in positions of power who legitimately don't like men and who have the power and the resources, not only to get their message across, but to harm men in the process. And we can't act like that does not exist. And this is a prime example of, I think, that being the case. Okay, see if I can actually find document. Let's see. Sorry, guys, bear with me. Percent. Wait, where'd you go?
So this is the viral tweet that Shay read. I'm not gonna go back to that.
Exactly. I have so many files.
But she's right here. Women don't understand men.
Exist. And let's just focus on the tweet alone. What I find problematic about this tweet, it's not her setting boundaries. It's not the fact that she wants to set boundaries. That's not the problem with this tweet. The problem with this tweet to me is the fact that it is incredibly disrespectful and it is really demeaning. And what I'm saying is, what I noticed is that there's a lot of women out there who legitimately do not know how to get along with men. And it shows in the way that they treat them. I looked at this tweet and automatically I was just like, this woman does not sound like she.
And see, guys, the problem with this woman is the problem with a lot of women in the West. They don't have soft skills. And that's why men are using passports as therapy, because they're looking for women with the requisite soft skills that cannot activate their nervous system, but calm down their nervous system. I'm going to say it again. A feminine woman will not activate a man's nervous system, but she will calm down a man's nervous system. And women that have high social or high emotional IQ, they know how to do it. So it sounds like to me that maybe, or perhaps Miss Lewis don't have the requisite social IQ or soft skills to talk to men.
She has a strong heterosexual male that she is in relationship with, whether it be a brother, I don't know, a father, an uncle. It doesn't sound like she has a strong man in her life who she would help understand how men work. Because nobody is mad. I didn't see any Black men out there saying, we're mad that you don't want to see us. We're so sad. Like, no. what the main pushback was the disrespect. If you're looking right here, it's like, so she's shaming them. No scheduled consultations, nothing to see for a good fit. I'm not going to prove my worth to anyone. So it's like, already we know she's triggered. She's triggered. She is triggered by these potential clients who are looking to see whether or not she would be a good fit. She's triggered because they're not approaching her in the way that she thinks is worthy, right? Then she moves on. It says, we would not work well together because you already trying me and I'm not above going off on nobody. So it's like she has a chip on her shoulder. She's already telling you, y'all can hear the attitude in this. Y'all can hear the neck rolling and the roll island and the finger. We can all hear it. We can literally hear and see how she would be saying this. She says, if you try me before the therapeutic relationship starts, I know you out here being a menace to folks. Please do not tell, again, please don't tell me that this tweet right here is totally and completely professional, and that there is no ounce of shaming, no ounce of insulting, no ounce of popping up out the mouth. Like, the attitude in this one is like, it's just all across the board. The attitude is off the chains. And then, of course, at the bottom, y'all gonna activate my nervous system. Man, it's like, you're a mental health professional. You're a mental health professional. So that means you professionally sit down and talk and work with people who have illnesses. So it's like, if the thought of you talking to somebody about their illnesses is going to activate your nervous system, it's like, I mean, are your nerves sensitive? And should somebody with such sensitive nerves be in the mental health perspective? So it's just like, forget about all the context of the Sharice Rawls, right? Or whatever her name is. And
it appears, guys, a lot of times, as I said before, once again, they're used the struggles of black men to push their own agenda. But when it comes down to standing in alliance with black men as being human beings, they see us as nothing. And that's overgeneralization, which is a cognitive distortion or thinking error, because what it says all black men. She didn't say black men that are 24 or black men of a certain demographic or this type of black men. She said black men from a spectrum from 18 to 80 are dangerous. And she more or less pushed the narrative of the black man being the boogeyman, something that got black men like Emmett Till killed based on projection and based on ignorance.
And all the other black female therapists who have gone viral for saying misandrous things, forget about them. Let's just pretend they don't exist. Based upon this tweet alone, I'm like, how can you tell me that this is professional and that this is respectful and that this is non-bias? So I'm like, anybody, I think, with, 2 cents who doesn't have a bias, who maybe isn't a bit misandrous, will look at this and be like, this is a bit unprofessional. But here's the thing, that if you want to see this and give it a benefit of it out and say, okay, maybe she's new, maybe she really is just new, and I see somebody in here, ghetto professional, she's on that ghetto professional vibe. Okay. If you want to take that stance and say, look, maybe she doesn't understand that she's coming off the standard, she doesn't understand that she's coming off disrespectful. Like, if you want to be that person to give her benefit of the doubt, okay. But here's where it really gets bad. So you keep on moving forward, and then you see her doubling down when people start pushing back and being like, hey, that was kind of offensive, right? For you to say those things about clients, predominantly black male clients. And then she starts to double down. She says, no, setting boundaries doesn't sit well with everybody. So and then over here, she says, there are some people making burner accounts just to attack me. Hate that for them. Here's one that she started to retweet because she's starting to feel the pressure. She says, I truly hate the way black adults target girls, both men and women. Girls are minors, but they are expected to know better than to be in relationships with 37-year-old men. You don't hold the men accountable at all. We see these men go after the girls, but you excuse them. She retweeted that. So already it's like, not only is there the tweet, but then there's a response, and we're starting to see more and more and more that, like, this person obviously has a bias towards men. She obviously has a trait. She literally retweeted something that said men are not held accountable. Okay, so women aren't held accountable either. So Are we now suggesting that we live in a society where men are exclusively the problem and women are all victims, and that is the paradigm? Because if that's the case, then it is impossible for you to go in and be a therapist and be unbiased. And that is supposed to be your duty as a therapist, right? Is to be unbiased, is to come there and be essentially a blank slate for the person to be able to unpack and to unravel some of the more intimate, deeper things about themselves so that they can be mended and be emotionally well and whole. But if you have already come in as a therapist and you are already biased and you already assume that these...
And guys, that's part of doing the shallow work. You have to know what your biases are, because if you have biases, that can lead to countertransference. And that's not good, because now you're cutting off a population based on your own biases and also your own ignorance. And that's not conducive to the therapeutic relationship. Great job, Shay. Shay did a great job breaking this down. I was on the string, so we'll get into it in a minute. Hold tight.
It's simply meant to say, I don't think I can offer you the best service right now. You know, like there could have been a way that was handled that would not have resulted in shaming men and shaming specifically Black men. Because best believe, as a Black woman living in Mississippi, the deep South, where she's surrounded by predominantly Black people, she is seeing predominantly Black clients, Black male clients. So let's just keep it above. Let's just not try to act like, oh, I'm talking about all Black women. No, she's living in the deep South in Mississippi as a Black woman. Let's not act like white non-Black men are going out of their way to try to speak with a Black female therapist. Let's not act like that's the case. So by all accounts, we know that this woman is speaking primarily to Black people. Not to mention, in her, if you look at some of her profile, she says she specializes, and some of her tweets actually said that she specializes in helping to try to create safe spaces for Black folks, right, where they can be themselves. So this is the kind of environment that you created. So again, if you're a mental health professional and your job is to make sure that people are safe, that they feel safe, or that they learn how to create boundaries and learn how to have a healthy emotional framework, then you as a mental health professional go out and say something that is triggering to the masses. Why not at the very least consider, okay, maybe was my tone a little off? Okay, was my, or even if that was my tone, could I have handled that in a way that would have been a little more respectful? Could I have handled that in a way that would have had a bit more empathy? Like, to me, this is what I would expect from a mental health professional. This is what I would expect. But what happens is she's doubling down. And then now she's mad that people are threatening her. Now, first of all, I don't think it's right if people are threatening her. Now, I don't even know if that's true or not, because I saw some people who are just like, look, no. Now she's just trying to play the victim. So I don't know. She's saying she's threatened. I'm just going to assume that's true. But I'm like, also at the end of the day, if you're a mental health professional and you basically stick up a middle finger to men who are mentally unstable, well, what are you expecting? What are you expecting? Like, men already feel screwed over. They already feel like they're at the wit's end. They already feel like society doesn't like them or whatever. And then they go to the very place to try where they would hope to find solace, and they get basically a middle finger, or they get disrespect. Well, yeah, some people may crack. Well, yeah, some people may come to you. I'm not saying that is right. I don't think violence is ever the answer, especially for something like that. But at the same time, it's like, when you're dealing with mentally unstable people, you have got to move with care. You have got to move with care. And this to me showed an extreme level of just lack of empathy and lack of professionalism. And then on top of that, there doesn't seem to be any remorse. That's why I'm just like, look, people make mistakes. I'm all for giving people second chances, giving them room to improve. I'm all for that. But it's like, she's doubling down. She is doubling down. And then we continue, and then she's talking about launching a membership. Okay. Then it's saying, look, I'm changing the things I cannot accept. Okay. Here's one in the bottom. It says, okay, Black women deserve to feel safe. I'm sorry. I should be reading from the bottom up, because that's in the timeline. It says, Black women deserve to feel safe. So again, now she's making this about herself. Now this is about.
So based on what she's doing there, she's casting the narrative of victimhood. And now she's casting the narrative of Black men being violent to justify her biases towards black men. They always see black men under the guise and under the lens of like being just like Mr. They are dangerous. They're violent. They're not good providers. They're not good protectors. And that's another thinking error called catastrophizing. Guys, do me a favor, share the stream with several brothers, several good men, and also women that want to hear this message. And also donate if you want to have your comments read. Shout out to Shay once again. She did a great job breaking this down. We both did. And I'm going to show you the point where I was there as well. Hold tight.
Her lack of safety, her being a victim, her having these men who are going out and harassing her and treating her wrong and all this kind of different stuff. And I'm like, again, I'm not advocating for any woman to have violence hurled at her. I think that is inappropriate. But you are a mental health professional who went online and stuck up a middle finger to men. And even when you were caught in it or you found that people were offended, there was no willingness to at least consider whether or not they were right, or to consider whether or not your tone could have been changed a bit, or whether or not you could have approached that in a softer way. Like, there was no consideration. There was no empathy. There was no, okay, let me try to evolve. That's what a therapist would do. A therapist would do that. A therapist was like, okay, you know what? I was a little bit triggered, or maybe my language wasn't this. So, okay, let me try to evolve. Let me try to understand where this person is coming from. No, it's just now these men are attacking me. Wow, these men are attacking me. Wow. I'm the victim. Now I really don't want to see no clients. So then now we move on. It says, a man just called my business and said, okay, yeah, so I read that already. And then it says, y'all saw male and thought she's talking about black men. So now this is where we get into the gaslighting, because now black men are coming out here and saying, so you basically sticked up a middle figure to black men. And she's saying, I didn't say only black men. Ma'am, as I mentioned before, you work in Mississippi in the deep South. Don't act like all these non-black men are going out of their way to see a black female therapist, a black feminist female therapist. That's not happening. Okay. Not to mention, lo and behold, not to mention, you literally signed up to be on a therapy called therapyforblackmen.org. So this is where we start getting into the gaslighting, where you're caught on something and you are clearly shown to be at fault. And instead of being like, you're right, I was wrong on that, or I missed it, or okay, instead of just owning it, now you got to gaslight. Now you're going to be, I wasn't talking about no black men, when you're literally on therapyforblackmen.org. Like, what are we doing? This is a mental health professional. This ain't some person in high school, just out of high school, trying to find their life. This is a professional that has all this, what is it? LCSW, LIC, all these acronyms. And it's supposedly an expert on how to handle people's emotional, mental, presumably their communication, how to handle that. And
shout out to my man, GCLA for the 10. Nothing said, man. I appreciate it, man. And that's a deal, right? Thank you, sir, for donating. Thank you, sir.
That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? Got 5 on it.
And this adds to the conversation, guys, that sometimes education does not always trump pain and pathologies. And it's obvious this woman has some unresolved pathology that she's dealing with, and she's projecting her pathology, whether for bad relationships, and more or less trying to castigate all black men in a negative light. And as I said earlier, that's problematic.
She's acting like this. I'm like, and here's the thing. At the beginning, it's like I wanted to give her the benefit of the doubt. Honestly, I wanted to believe, okay, let me try to understand. Let me try to seek context first. Like I wanted it to be something that it was not. And I was so disturbed to find out that it's like, no, it's exactly what we think it is. It's exactly what you think it is. The misandry is starting to show. And when she's being caught on it, and when she's being caught out for it, now it's about her being the victim. And if you look at her tweets again, now she's launching a membership. So presumably this different traction she's got, she's going to now use to help empower women even more so. She's talking about how men are harassing her. She's talking about that, hey, she wasn't really talking about Black men. And then we find out that she's actually on therapy for blackmen.org. Now, I think if you look now, she's off. I think she went and quickly removed that. But best believe she was advertising herself as a therapist for Black men. And then here's a tweet that I think really, really just brought it all home. Now, she tweeted this about a year ago, but based upon her current behavior, it doesn't seem like.
And look at what she said to the bottom, guys. Protect Black women also means protect us from Black men. Now, imagine if Black men use that narrative to talk about the millions of self-deletions that sadly many of our women are complicit in as it relates to the desecration of their bodies and the unborn. Imagine if we castigated them in that negative light. It's always protection for them as it relates to the physical, but who is protecting the egos of Black men? Who is protecting the Black man? The first method or the first mode in protecting the Black man is protecting his mind. But who is protecting his mind? No one.
She has changed from this position. If anything, it seems like she probably has doubled down in this position. And it's this tweet right here where it says, protect Black women also means protect us from Black men. Again, protect Black women also means protect us from Black men. So you mean to tell me somebody that has that mindset and that belief about Black men can come into a therapy session and offer medical help from an unbiased position? If she could honestly say, these men are activating my nervous system. Prior to that, she could say, to protect Black women also means protecting them from Black men. You mean to tell me that this person is unbiased? Okay, and even if she says, okay, look, yes, because I'm biased, I'm going to focus on women. I'm not going to focus on men. If that's her stance, to me, that's still dangerous, because am I going to want to now go to a therapist who I know has biases against men? Because that's going to leak out in how she gives me advice. That's going to leak out consciously, subconsciously, in little subtleties. Because as a straight woman, I'm in relationship with men. I have a husband. I have a father. I have cousins. I have men.
Now, guys, the culprit to all this is liberal indoctrination. And when they go to these liberal schools, they're radicalized under the feminist theory lens. That's basically talking about all female empowerment, whether it be female empowerment in the government level. Also, it's based on oppression. And many times our women see us as oppressors, even where Black men never had the power to oppress no one. We never had power as a group to oppress Black women, but they say it based on their trauma from the past and their ignorance and their rebellion.
Exes, baby daddies, whatever. You have those bad experiences, and then you walk into a university system and you sit under white feminist training for what 4 years, maybe 6 years, maybe 8, depending upon what you're doing. But you sit under that training and you come out radicalized. Sometimes you can literally come out seeing men as the source of the problem. And this is what I think is happening. This is what I actually think happened to her, if I'm being honest. Because you see, it's like, so there's that wound, there's that hurt that started from her Black stepfather. She says, okay, you're the reason I dated emotionally available, men. And when I went to you and tried to connect, you weren't able to do so. That's painful. That's a wound, especially for women. That's hurtful. Not having that emotional connection with their father, with a man in their life as a father figure, that is hurtful, especially for women, because we are emotional human beings. And
guys, a lot of these women are woke. They're woke therapists. They're not traditional or traditionalist masculine therapists. Many of these women are woke therapists. And because they are woke therapists, a lot of their idiosyncrasies become problematic because they project their pain to all men, even though their pain or whatever pain they went through, whether it be imagined or more or less be real, was not promulgated or more or less placed against them by me, you, or anybody else. But that's what unresolved trauma does, ignorance and rebellion. She's a woke therapist. And many times woke therapists think just like her.
many of Black women, many of us who go along and feel that and have that void and feel that disconnect. So that is a wound that she carries. Then, she went into school obviously to try to get different training. And based upon the things that she said.
And look at what she said here. Remembering the time I sent the letter to my stepdad telling him he was the reason I dated emotionally unavailable men. He never wrote back or balled it up. You glass. And so vicarious trauma, bad relationships, and she picked men just like her dad. Dad was emotionally unavailable, and so are the men, because girls tend to look to their father as the ideal man that they would date. But once again, this is where she should get help. And I'm going to tell you guys, some of these women end up being in alternative lifestyles because they develop a visceral hate towards Black men. They start being in alternative lifestyles based on the pain they've been through.
And based upon the thing that she alluded to, you can tell that even if she doesn't identify as a Black feminist, she certainly has picked up feminist ideology. Now, again, when you do that, right, when you have bad experiences with men, then you go into a education and they tell you men are the problem. Now it can kind of create this confusing limbo, because there's this aspect of you, right, where it's like you want to be with men, you have that desire, but then at the same time there's this negativity towards men. But then based upon the feminist framework, men are the one that have to fix it. And so the issue with this kind of trajectory, right, of you go from, whether it's a dad wound, father wound, whatever, you go from that, you go into these educational systems, you get radicalized, and then you come out. The issue is now it puts you in a chokehold, because in one instance you want Black men, or one instance you want a good man, but then in the other instance, all of your situations with Black men have been traumatizing. And then now you have this whole framework that has been upheld by society that says men are the problem. So in your mind, all of the different problems that you have experienced, all of the different problems that you have faced are exclusively because of Black men. And in order for it to be fixed, Black men now have to stand up, and they have to fix the community, and they have to protect you, and they have to open up, and they have to ABC, X, Y, and Z, Black men are the problem. But it puts you in the chokehold, because now you're seeing that Black men are the problem, and you feel like there's nothing you can do about it. And so it's just kind of weird tug of war. You see up here, she says, man, it saddens me because I really love doing the work with Black men. So there's an aspect of her that's just like, man, like I want to connect with Black men. But then a few tweets previously, it's like Black woman also means protect us from Black men. And so her trajectory to me it shows me how women are radicalized, how there's a progression of radicalization that happens, starting, I think, very young, from maybe bad situations, lack of healthy relationships, fill in the blank. Then you go into these institutions that radicalize you further. And then now you go and you see men are the problem. Now, because men are the problem, you're going to have a chip on your shoulder every single time that you deal with them. You having a chip on your shoulder when you deal with men means that you're probably not going to have good results, because men need respect. Just like women need love. Women need a certain level of, protection. Women have those things that we.
And so you protect women by controlling your emotions, by striving to be self-introspective, and striving to look at all angles. True love for a man is when a woman can control her emotions, and when she can look at the big picture without looking within her emotion. The act of discipline means she really loved that man. But sadly, many have not conditioned themselves to become disciplined because there is no accountability. And many times the love that men want, which is respect, they never get it because no one teaches them to respect men, to say the least.
Men need respect. So when you walk around without that respect, now you don't have good relationships with men. And what, in my humble opinion, what is going to be the byproduct of years and years and years and years of not getting along with men, having emotional voids with men, not being able to connect, feeling like men are the problem, and having all this pain? What's going to be the byproduct of that long term you might start to experiment. You might start to experience with the different sexuality. And this is what we see going on here. This is what we see going on here. So I want to bring up real quick, and then I think after this, I'm gonna that wraps it up, because to me this brings everything into full swing. Like, the more I started to see her response and then started to learn about who she was, I'm just like, okay, we're seeing this plain as day. This woman just does not like men, and in her mind, she has justification to do so because her dad wasn't emotionally available to her. Whatever else went on. But nevertheless, she had justification. So let me pull this up, because she does have a recent response that she did regarding her position. Okay, let me see. And let me see if I can pull it up. Okay, so here's her TikTok. Yeah, here's her TikTok. She has different videos. Okay. Actually, let me play this real quick, because this is one of her responses. Okay.
So let me get this straight. I say I don't want to work with males anymore in my private practice because they activate my nervous system and I don't feel safe. And their response is to threaten to unalive me by threatening my livelihood, saying that there's groups of y'all that are reporting me to my licensing board because I don't want to work with y'all. Y'all ain't want to work with me anyway. So what y'all talking about? Y'all are reporting me to my licensing board for saying I specialize in working with Black women who overcome perfectionism. Did you know that therapists are allowed to have specializations? Did you know that when we are in school, our instructors ask us, what is your target population? Who would you like to work with? Focus on them. Did you know that? It's people leaving me reviews saying that I'm racist, saying that I shouldn't work with Black men, saying that when they were my client, they felt this type of way, blah, blah, blah. These folks have never even seen me. I don't know these people. So y'all just sitting up here lying on me. Why would you do that? They're calling my business line saying they want to slice off my face. They want to unalive me. They want to essay me. I should be. You really think I want to work with men now? No. Then on Twitter, y'all posting a picture of my profile for therapy for Black men. Yeah, that's me. But I'm no longer seeing males because of the things that I've said previously. And my profile is still up there because I paid my $20 for the month. I'm waiting on them to stop my subscription. I just made this announcement last week. Y'all gonna give me some time? Where is the energy for the male therapists who only see men? Because I don't see y'all out here acting like this towards them. I encourage you, I implore you to find a male therapist.
Shout out to my man, International Mango Lover, showing love on tonight. Brother International Mango Lover said this. He said, I prefer my foreign mangoes than to deal with them. It's more enjoyable, satisfying experience. Real talk, no doubt, brother. I appreciate it.
That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right?
International Mango
That's a
Lover.
bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? Got 5 on it.
And brother, because of your kindness and your generosity, model the International Mango Lover, you are the #1 sponsor of this stream, brother. Thank you, sir. All right, let's get back into it, guys.
That's a good fit for you. So let me get this.
Okay,
straight.
so I want to crack this a bit, because again, this is her response. This is her response to people being like, "Hey, what you said was actually very offensive and disrespectful to potential clients or to mentally unstable or whatever, or even someone not mentally unstable, maybe they're just looking to improve their mental health. This was disrespectful. Again, this is her response when she was caught out.
Work with males anymore in my private practice because they activate my nervous system and I don't feel safe.
So again, so y'all hear that? I don't work with men anymore because they activate my nervous system and I don't feel safe. Again, this is somebody who's coming in with an implicit bias, or maybe explicit at this point. She's coming in with a bias because if you have just because you have a few men go in your inbox who maybe they seem mentally unwell or regressive or whatever, that doesn't mean that all men are like that. I mean, if we did that, look, how many times have women went and said all kinds of things, talked about women's hair, makeup, said
Now I want to ask you and some of you brothers on the night, have you guys been interacting or more or less arresting or activating any black women's nervous system? I mean, this is pathetic, man, to say the least. Get some help, woman. Get some help, lady. You need some help because what you're doing, you're overgeneralizing.
Her edges are off, backbitten. Like, this, women can do some dastardly deeds. We can do some horrible things, but it's like when women do that, I don't see women quick to be like, well, I don't feel safe with these women because they talked about my hair, or they talked about my edges, or the way they approached me on Instagram, they was disrespecting me, and now I feel unsafe. Like, it's just, women do some crazy stuff too. But there's this understanding that, okay, well, those women over there, or that woman over there is crazy, but I still have my sisterhood, or I still have these people. Like we can make these distinctions between crazy women and then women that we align with. But somehow when men, if you see a few mentally unstable men, which again is your profession, when you see them, then not all men are unstable. Not all men are mentally unwell. And again, it's like, if this is what she believed personally, it's like, okay, she has a right to that, whatever. The problem is she's a mental health therapist. This is a professional. This is somebody who's supposed to be unbiased, who is clearly showing that she is. Clearly showing that she is. And yes, there are times out there when people can be unsafe. There are times out there when men can be unsafe and women. So it's like, I don't want to undermine that. That can happen. But what we have seen based upon the tweet and all the things up to this point is that she already came in with that understanding. And now any interaction she's having with men, even if it's subtle, she said, activating my nervous system. That means that she had a sensitivity to men to begin with for her nervous system to be activated. That means she's being triggered. Again, that means she has had some experiences in the past with men that men.
And what she's doing, once again, is clear projection based on the pain that she's had from other men, whether it be relationships or father. And she's projecting her pain to other men. And that means she hasn't done the shallow work. Because if she really feels that way towards black men, she's going to do a lot of harm to the client population.
Make it nearly impossible for her to see them through an unbiased lens. If she was not a mental health professional, this would not be a problem, but she is. And this is where it gets very dangerous.
And their response is to threaten to unalive me by threatening my livelihood, saying that there's groups of y'all that are reporting me to my licensing board because I don't want to work with y'all.
No. And this see, again, this is exactly where the narrative got swapped. The narrative got twisted. I don't know any man in their right mind who is going out there begging and pleading for a black feminist queer therapist to be seeing them. I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm like, men, especially straight heterosexual men, are not going out of the way, okay, to try to see black female therapists to the point where they're going to try to force her to see them. Like, that's not what's going on. What's going on here is the disrespect, as I mentioned to earlier. What's going on was the shaming. What's going on was the putting them down. That's what they're reacting to. So this has nothing to do about her personal boundaries. Nobody cares if she wants to see just women. If she did that, and if she did it in a professional light, we wouldn't be having this conversation. It was the way that she did it, and it was the way that she revealed her colors. That is the problem. And again, because she's a mental health professional, it's like, this is not acceptable. But it's crazy how now it's about how Black women need to be protected. And it's like, man, this is not a question of protection as much as this is a question of disrespect. And then now, because you did disrespect mentally, people who are probably mentally unstable, now you got people there who are going to say all kinds of crazy things. Look, I've gotten threats. I haven't gotten nearly as viral as she's gotten. I've gotten all kinds of threats and violent stuff. People saying they're going to do all kinds of things here that I don't want to say because I don't want to be demonetized. But I've gotten that. Obviously we've all, but I'm like, if you've been on social media for any length of time, you've probably gotten some crazy feedback, whether it's in their family, whether they're married to them or in close relationships or not. Even if they try to live as hermits or try to keep themselves isolated, it's like they're still in some way, shape, or form going to have to interact with men on some level. So I'm like, if you hold all these negative ideals with like literally 50% of the population, it's hard for me to think that now you're going to be able to give me help or provide a safe space for me to learn how to get along with myself and especially get along with men in the society. Like, I don't know that I believe that you can accurately help both when you, like I said, hold such negative views for at least half of the human population. Okay. So there's one more, and then I think I have a few minutes because I want to hear, I would love to hear from some of you lovely people, especially mental health professionals or retired mental health professionals, people who work in the field or have.
And guys, this is where I give my input. But we'll finish listening to what some of her biases towards men. Then I'm gonna get my input in a minute.
Especially love to hear from you in this.
And thanks once again, Shay.
Because I don't pretend to be an expert at all. As you guys know, I'm not. I'm just a girl with a microphone. But from what I could see, it just seemed highly unprofessional and very dangerous for such rhetoric to come from a mental health professional who specializes in working with emotionally unstable people. I thought it was highly not only disrespectful, but it was unsafe. It was irresponsible, frankly. And that's why I'm like, I don't agree. I don't think people should be going to her and sending death threats. I think that that's horrible. But at the same time, it's like when you're dealing with people who are mentally all over the place, you don't know what you're going to get. You could have triggered somebody. You literally could have triggered somebody who had a past that was full of DV or all kinds of different things. Like, you don't know. So it was really irresponsible. And do you really want to be going to somebody who's so careless when you were in a vulnerable state? I don't think so. One more thing I want to hold that I think really kind of helps tie this whole thing together. It's a subtle point, but nevertheless a significant point. Let me bring it up and then, okay, let's bring it up. Where'd you go? Okay. Alrighty, guys, we're almost through the receipts, and then in the meantime, guys, if you guys want to call in, let me know, because I'd love to hear, especially if there are any mental health professionals here, I'd love to hear from you, or like somebody who's worked in the field or is familiar with it. Wait, where'd you go? Okay. So we went over that video. Now, and then actually, I don't think I've seen this one. So let me see, because this is a recent one I haven't seen yet. So this is largely probably in response to what she said about setting boundaries.
Let's talk about how I created a boundary for myself by no longer accepting males in my private practice.
Oh God, okay.
And people became very upset with me for that. It is not lost upon me that when I said I don't want to see males, a lot of people took that and ran with it and said, I don't want to work with Black men. Because who said that? I was referring.
Gaslighting. Y'all seen it? Gaslighting? I'm like, you literally are on a website called Therapy for Black Men, and then you're denying the fact that you primarily see Black men. You literally live in Mississippi, which is one of the blackest states out there, and you are a Black woman who claims and prides herself in creating safe spaces for Black people to go and express themselves without bias. It's literally what she said in one of her tweets. So yes, people are thinking that you are a black therapist that works with Black men based upon the things that you have actually said, based upon the way that you have promoted yourself, based upon the fact that you paid $20 to be on a website that targets Black men specifically. What was it? blackmentherapy.org or something to that manner? So yes, we're thinking it's Black men. But the gaslighting, that's why I'm just like, the fact that there's no remorse, there's like zero remorse, and there is gaslighting and doubling down. It's just like, I mean, I don't even know what to say at this point. If you really wanted to give a benefit of a doubt and say, okay, maybe she's just unprofessional, maybe she's new, maybe she's unaware. Like if you wanted to give a benefit of the doubt, the way now she's doubling down and defending a position that nobody's attacking. Nobody cares about the fact that she's seeing. It's not that she's seeing women only. Most people in their right mind don't care about them. I'm sure there's some crazies out there, but most people who are somewhat in the right mind don't care that she wants to see women. Again, it's the disrespect. It is the blatant disrespect. And the fact that now she's gaslighting and acting like we're not all seeing it. And then now she's making a course of Black women. Like the timing is rather convenient. Okay. I saw this, y'all, and I was like, wait, I'm sorry, this is my first time seeing it, so bear with me. Oops.
Referring to the men who find me on different directory profiles for therapists. They go to my website, they see links to schedule a consultation, which will help us figure out if we're a good fit for each other. I was talking about the ones who overlook all of that and decide to send me an email asking me, why should I work with you? You shouldn't. You should not. Because we're not going to be a good fit. I don't have an issue with people emailing me, asking if I accept insurance or what are my private pay rates, stuff like that. That's no issue. I can respond to that very quickly. What I was addressing was the people who come in my inbox or in my DMs, not just emailing, because people will DM me and say, why should I choose you over another therapist? I don't know. I don't know what that therapist be doing. That ain't none of my business. There was something about me that pulled you towards me to want to work with me, yet you're still questioning why you should do that.
It's like, so she's taking it really personal. That's another thing too. It's like, she's taking something really, really personal. Somebody's shopping around for the best therapist for them, the best person, because essentially these are going to be people who patronize you, people who, your clients, people who are going to pay you, and who are going to share really intimate details. So them asking you, why should I work with you? Them vetting you that is not disrespectful, and that's not unreasonable, but she's taking it super personally. Like, she's like, oh, I'm really good. I'm this and that, like when if you actually
come. And this woman is definitely personalizing it. Let's look at the guys from a therapist perspective first, and we'll get back to some of these comments. Thank you guys for listening in. Hold tight.
Right. So you did a great job, Shay, giving a summation. I'm gonna actually use a piece of this. I'll do a show to parrot the conversation, but you did a great job giving a summation. So there was a lot of right and wrong in this therapist's assumption about clients. She does have a right to see whoever she wants to see. Mm-hmm. The quagmire is that she said, or more or less talked about this thing publicly. That was the issue. You can have a specialty, like me as a therapist, I'm open to all populations, but I prefer to work with male clients because male clients many times is an underserved population, especially Black men.
Guys, do me a favor. Thank you for the 6-8 that are watching. I appreciate you guys taking the time in your busy schedule to be part of this show. And tonight, I'm honored and I really appreciate it. But in the meantime, guys, I need you guys to do me a favor. Get the likes up. The robot just told me to get the likes up. And then also, guys, donate to the channel. I appreciate it, guys. So get the likes up because the robot said he got bills to pay. And he said it's important. Thank you.
what she did, she more or less personified what's called thinking errors. And the thinking error shade was generalization, overgeneralization, projection, and some displaced aggression as well. And so, as therapists, we should not do any harm to the patient. But at the same time, therapists are still human, and therapists have to also use know what their limitations are. They have to be careful that they don't use a condition called countertransference. And countertransference shade is a condition where the therapist countertransfer unpleasant thoughts that were more or less uh, uh, impacted upon them in the past. And sometimes it can be what's called conscious and unconscious motivations. That's why self-awareness shade is the key. If a therapist is not aware of their own biases and their own issues concerning the past or the present, then it's not helpful to the therapeutic population. In therapy, there's a such thing, Shay, called a therapeutic alliance, but also there's a such thing called therapeutic congruence. That therapeutic alliance and that therapeutic congruence is vital in helping the therapeutic relationship. So if that therapist have some unresolved issues, and like you did a great job talking about radicalization, liberal indoctrination, many times they don't see their own unconscious biases or pathologies. And because they don't see their unconscious biases or pathologies, they lack self awareness in addressing the deficit that a lot of these men are struggling with. So there are a lot of issues, Shay, in this whole tribe between this particular woman. And even though she has a right to see who she wants to see, she didn't do anything particularly illegal per se, but it does sound like that it goes against the code of ethics because we have a right to see what we want to see, but you should not more or less go public with it with your displeasure because it could impact the clients she's dealt with in the past or more or less make the profession look bad, if that makes sense.
No,
Casey,
that makes complete sense.
Right.
Yeah.
Casey,
Gender bias is not promoted in the field. I'm in the field too.
Okay.
Well, can I ask the two of you something? Because the way she worded it, I mean, I do understand that a person can have a specialty or a specialized group of people that they wish to deal with. Somebody got static. But the way she worded it, she didn't say women only. She made it a point to say no men. And
Right.
even though the definition is the same, it really says the intent behind the person. For example, I seen in Walnut Creek, and it was funny. I took a picture of it. I seen a sign where a person, I don't know if it was man or woman, said divorce lawyer, men only. I thought it was hilarious. And but it goes to, it's a different intent. It hits different. Had he said, or had he or she said divorce lawyer, no women allowed, it would be a completely different, even though the results are the same, it's a completely different intent behind the meaning. Because one is inclusivity. Right quick, brother. Because one is inclusivity and the other one is deliberately exclusivity. And what she did was she worded it that way to provoke a response and then reacted to that response. What are you professionals thought on that?
Yeah.
But you know what that goes back to? That takes us directly, subconsciously and subliminally back to the whites only signs and the colored only signs that we saw during
even
the
those
Jim
signs are inclusive. Like no blacks would be more what she's saying.
Yeah, but it's at the same time it's pejorative as well.
Nothing pejorative about white.
Whites only. I didn't say a white sign. I said
guys, go check
only.
out Shay. She is a
pejorative
male
because
advocate.
it's
Go check out Shay.
racially,
She's a good sister.
And what she's doing is gender discrimination, sex discrimination, and that is equally destructive.
Right. She definitely has some issues with overgeneralization. When you can't overgeneralize a population of men, as Shay said or articulated early. She does all. Listen, as a therapist, I got the right to say my specialty population is black men, but I can't go public and say I don't work with women because that's pejorative. if that is your qualm, you need to keep it to yourself. You don't
Exactly.
denigrate yourself by saying it publicly. But there are factions in population like LGBTQ where they mostly work with people that more or less follow their worldview. But here's the misnomer, Shay. Many presume and assume that the therapeutic process is static and there's not going to be any biases. But no, it's not. In theory, it should be static, but it's evolving because no therapist, all therapists have unconscious pathologies that they deal with, and sometimes they elicit those unconscious pathologies to their patient population. That's why it's good for therapists to have another therapist that's a seasoned therapist that's fair and neutral. However, as you said earlier, when you have been indoctrinated under liberal ideologies, and those liberal ideologies are not consistent with the mentality, the well-being, and the humanity of men, but particularly black men, then it becomes a problem because what you're doing, you're perpetuating the thing that you said you vowed not to do, which is to do no harm to the to human beings
To the
and be
client.
willing to serve a population that's underserved. Black men are underserved population. Historically, we have been underserved, and also historically, black people have never seen therapy as a how can I say, a solvent to help them deal with a lot of the issues that they are dealing with. That's why a lot of times men don't go to black female therapy, or men don't go to therapy at all because they have their own stigmas or preconceived notions about the therapeutic process. But the therapeutic process, Shay, is very powerful once you get a therapist that can work with you. That therapist's worldview is congruent with your worldview. Like I'm more of a traditionalist therapist. I mean, I believe in traditionalism and family, and not saying I won't work with other populations per se, but I feel that my practice and my specialty would be more around, black male issues. That's why I use the kosher clinicians like a synthetic way to talk about urban issues while inculcating some therapeutic concepts. And so, if you take it to a whole, I'm being a little tangential right there, but one would argue that's why the passport movement is becoming so proliferate, so powerful, because it's an alternate form of therapy for men to get their needs met. Because many times here in the confines of America, their needs are not getting met, sadly. So that's my take on it.
Well, okay. I think my question didn't really hit right. So I'll condense
Yeah,
it.
I didn't hear the question, game changer. I just
Yeah.
popped in. I'm actually at the office right now. I didn't hear your question.
Oh yeah. No worries. No worries. So I'll rephrase it this way. Would the reaction be different had she said women only as opposed to no men?
Oh, definitely. Oh, right. I see your point. Right. I
Yeah.
I think if she had said women only, I don't think she would have got probably got no backlash.
Now, even though they both have the same outcome, now from a psychological perspective, why do you think she said no men when she could have said women only and didn't receive any backlash? Do you think
Well,
that
it's,
she?
right. Well, it's consistent with what Shay said earlier. It's unhealed pathology. It's ruminating through vicarious trauma of bad relationships or dealing with men that more or less played a role in her downfall. Listen, a lot of people can be chronologically game changer a certain age, but when it comes down to arrested development, she could still be in what's called intimacy versus isolation, consistent with Eric Erickson. Some people are still in an arrested stage of their development where they have not graduated to the stage of their development that's consistent with their chronological age. So,
They're still stuck at their worst unhealed, unresolved trauma in their
right.
childhood.
Yes, sir. Right, right. And that's why I say a lot of them could be vicarious trauma, not only from childhood per se, but also from relationships. We all should go through successive stages of our psychosocial development. There are people that are still in trust versus mistrust, but they could be 35 years old. So they're still in unresolved or in an undeveloped mind state. Also based on psychoanalytic theory, it could be regression, because regression is a primitive id. It's primitive. It's not. It's not evolved. It's primitive. And so sometimes because it's primitive, it's unconscious, and they don't see what the unconscious pathology is. And that unconscious pathology is not only ruminated, but it's projected to others. And many times that projection is based on people they haven't done anything to them. So it's a myriad of factors, but I would definitely look at the psychosocial stages of development and look at how that plays a role in her implicit biases towards black men. Because Shay made a great Shay did a great job. She's right. I'm not gonna say all black women are. There's some good sisters. Shay's a good sister. Still, I've met some because I've been married for 27 years. My wife is a black woman. But there are issues in America with our women. But I'm not gonna say all black women are bad because that's a thinking error. That's like magnification or catastrophizing. That's a thinking error. And it causes cognitive distortion.
Shout out to my man Gregory Scotland for showing love. I appreciate it, Gregory Scotland, for coming in. He said a little late, but here to support. This is a great subject and another opportunity for your advice to help many people in the selection of a psychologist or clinical therapist. Man, I appreciate it, Gregory Scotland, always showing love, Gregory Scotland. And that is a deal, right? Thank you, sir.
That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? Got 5 on it.
And Gregory Scotland, also, you are one of the #1 sponsors of this stream, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you for showing your support. And to the 61 that are watching, thank you, guys.
To say the least. So, she needs to go to a therapist and do the work, but I don't think she's going to do it because, as Shay said earlier, because of the indoctrination, even though black men never played any role in policy making, they have more or less impacted black women or any women. Black men never created policies to oppress black women or women in general. But because she's been trained to think that black men are bad or the boogeyman, then she's going to continue to push the narrative and the agenda that we are the problem, we are the issues, and we are the pain, even though you, me, and game changers, we don't even know who the woman is.
Well, I want to give a counter theory, and trust me, I'm not in that field. I have a completely different, unrelated field of study.
Right.
I think she's an idiot, and I know that there's.
So that's your counter theory, that she's an idiot?
Yeah. And
that's not exactly a clinical diagnosis.
Yeah, I know.
Right.
But like I say, it's not my field of study. But here's why, and I put this against, what the two of you were saying about, childhood and arrested development and something like that. And, children don't behave that way. They don't. So,
what do you mean? What do you mean they don't behave that way?
Well, they don't do stuff like the stuff that she did, even if given the opportunity. This isn't a matter of maturity. Like it's not many, 15-year-olds that behave that way, or at whatever age.
Well, quite the contrary. Children cry out. The greatest motivation in the human condition is the craving to be appreciated, and
right.
And we cry out for attention. We cry out for attention, approval, acceptance, and several other A words. And this is what she's doing. This is a cry. This is a cry for help in her own coded language.
Right.
And we have to take that coded language and interpret it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I
get that part. Yeah.
To parrot that sentiment, a fellow clinician, there's a concept called choice theory, and that's predicated in reality therapy. And it basically says, consistent with Dr. William Glasser, that needs drive behaviors. Needs drive behaviors. It's based on 5 elemental principles. It's based on power, fun, freedom, belonging, and survival. If any of those 5 elemental principles have been void in this woman's life, and it sounds like it's power and maybe even survival to some degree, then she might choose behaviors that are not consistent with what's called socially acceptable behaviors. And because of that, that's where the projection occurs, where she's projecting her pain and her feelings to others. So that's why we all got to do, even therapists have to do shallow work. It's just like telling a doctor, just because he's a doctor, he don't have to go to another doctor. Oh yeah, doctors go to doctors. Preachers need other pastors to pray for them, because just because he's a preacher doesn't mean he doesn't need prayer. Professionals are still human beings. It just means we have the requisite knowledge and the requisite information to help us heal other people. But you can never be competent or more or less optimized at your level until you become circumspect and cerebral and knowing what your pathologies are as you hope to deal with populations that are broken, to say the least.
And she needs to, at the basis of that is wanting
Hey,
to.
hey, Terrence, I'm sorry. I keep on hearing this static. That's why I think you're getting me. That I'm hearing this static, so it's kind of hard for me to make sense of what's going on. And then when you unmute, it'll you can't hear totally.
How about now?
No, I'm still hearing it. I'm still yeah. I don't know if it's something else. But guys, this has been great. I actually do have to wrap this up pretty soon.
Okay.
So
I'm gonna drop off Shay. Thank you, dear. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, definitely.
All right.
We'll be in touch.
No doubt.
All right, thanks a lot, brother.
Parents, game changer. If you guys have any, final thoughts, and then I will wrap this up for today.
Yeah, I'll go first. Fellas, when people like Kosher Clinician and Terrence use a bunch of Latin to describe a chick, stay away from her. I don't speak Latin, but when they start giving Latin paragraphs on how much of an imbecile she is, then just stay away. You don't want to deal with that Latin. You don't have to. I don't care what she looks like. I don't care how she like once you start hearing, you're like, oh, they're regressing to the pathology of child. Like, hey, okay, I'm staying away. Thanks, God. I'm gone. Appreciate it. That's my 2 cents. Yeah, whenever the psychologist sounds like a pharmacist, then you just walk. That's when you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for calling in. That was
all right. Thanks. Thanks for having me.
Take care. Okay, Terrence, what do you have on the topic?
Do I sound okay?
Yeah, you sound good now.
Okay. But like my brother clinician alluded to, the real problem and the only solution in her problem and problematic behavior lies in her wanting to be self-aware.
Right.
That's the only way that she can solve this. And at this point in time in her development, she doesn't have the self-awareness. Nobody has told her, hey, you stink. Nobody has said, hey, the emperor ain't got no clothes on. And so she has to have that epiphany.
Yeah.
And that light seeing moment. See, the first rule of solving a problem, and that me and my clinician have, is to define the problem.
Right.
And the first thing a therapist says, whether it's on TV or in real life, is what seems to be your problem. And law is based on precedent. And the precedent in this case is if you call yourself a Black female mental health professional, then you have to be aware of the sisters that came before you, like Dr. Frances Cress Welsing or Scheherazade Ali or Julia Hare. And she exhibits no signs of knowing anything about any of those people. And she's what we see in her is a sick person trying to give out medicine. And that's paradoxical, and it's not going to work. And I'll leave you with this. If you look in the word therapist, there are 2 words. One is the, and the other one is you know what. This tells us if you don't have somebody that can do the healing work, that's what's going to happen to you. And this is a sick person that's trying to give out medicine for some false motivation and a false reason.
Shout out to my man James Turner. He said that Coach just popped out on the show a little on my way to New York City. Save yourself, Black man. No doubt. Thank you for showing some love, James Turner. And that's a deal, right? Thank you.
That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? Got 5 on it.
Appreciate it, brother. I appreciate it. And then also shout out to Hammer TV for the $5 super sticker. Thank you. And you are dynamite. I appreciate it,
Hello,
Byron.
lucky person. You got the number right, because you are talking to Kid a Dynamite. Pure Dynamite.
All right, guys, we're going to get back into it, and we're going to end it in a minute. I might drop the link, but we're going to end it in a minute. I might allow you guys for about 5-10 minutes to come on and share this conversation. Hold tight.
She's sick herself, and she's not. You have to ask yourself, as one of her potential clients, is this person capable of healing me? No person is capable of healing you unless they've overcome something and healed from something themselves. If they hadn't taken that journey, then they're not capable of healing you. And like my brother talked about before, there's Maslow.
Okay, I'm sorry, the static's getting kind of rough. I was not able to hear the last few things that you said.
How about now? Can you hear me now?
Yes. No.
I'm still staticky.
You're so staticky, but no, I think we understand what you're saying. Thank you, Karen.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, sweetie.
I'm sure we'll talk later.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you have a good one.
You too.
Okay.
Yes, Shay, I'll leave on this note. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. You're good.
Denial, Shay, is the antecedent, and recovery is the measure to help all human beings become the better version of themselves. I'll leave you with this note. Teddy Pendergrass said, "You can't hide from yourself. Everywhere you go, there you are." Until she look in the mirror, see where she needs to heal from wherever area in her life, like you were saying about not getting the toolage from her father or whoever, she's still gonna go in or continue to go in this karmic cycle where she's projecting her pain based on past relationships and the men that did her well. And so on that note, thank you, dear, for allowing me to come on. I will be talking about this topic on my own channel using some clips from you. And I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I look forward to it.
All right, bye-bye.
All right, you have a good one. All right, well, this was fun, guys. If you came in a little late in the words, you can go back and catch the replay. Game changer, shout out to you for the 2. It says B2W. I did not say stay away from Latin woman. No, I understand what you're saying. You're talking about if people have to use Latin words and all these scientific words to describe her current emotional state, stay away. I think that's pretty clear. Shout out to you, R2D1 with the 20. Thank you so much. That was very generous of you. Also, I did see a few cash apps come through that I would like to acknowledge real quick.
All right, guys.
Let's see.
I think that's it in a nutshell, guys. If you got any questions, feel free to any specific question. You can do a cash app, or you just want to ask a question. Feel free to ask that question. But I'm gonna sign off, guys. It's been a great show. Unless you guys got a question you want to ask me. If some of you men are in trouble or dealing with emasculation, come see me for a non-diagnostic consultation and email me at kosherclinician@gmail.com for a non-diagnostic consultation. But in the meantime, some of you men have been emasculated, and to eradicate that emasculation, guys, y'all need to do this. But, however, after we talk about the emasculation, we're going to talk about why men are getting passports consistent with the great Bishop Charles D. Williams.
Have you been distressed or perplexed? Emasculated. A book written by Edward Fields IV. Everything that needs to be known about men in modern time. Listen, men are not complex. They are misunderstood and unappreciated. Learn what men really feel, think, and desire. Also observe their struggle for acceptance, love, and belonging. A must read for every man in this classic book by Edward Fields IV, Emasculated. Go get your copy now.
All right, guys, many men are leaving Babylon. Babylon is consistent with America. And men are leaving Babylon and they're going to Zion. Zion is the place of new beginning. And consistent with this therapist, that more or less projected her own biases towards black men. The late, great Bishop Charles E. Williams gave a great sermon back in the past talking about Babylon. And the question is this, men, can these dead bones live? Can these dead bones live? Some of you men are in the valley of decision. Some of you are in a dry place. Some of you men are zombies, but you're looking for freedom because you can't find freedom here in America, and you're tired of being zombies. Consistent with Bishop Charles E. Williams, as we sign off. Be well.
Then said he unto me,
Then the Lord said unto me,
Prophesy unto the wind.
Preach unto the wind.
Prophesy, son of man.
Preach, son of man.
And say to the wind.
And say to the wind,
Thus saith the Lord God.
Thus saith the Lord God.
Come from the four winds.
Come from the north, south, east, and west.
O breath.
O breath.
And breathe upon these slain.
And breathe upon these dead bodies.
That they may live.
That they may live.
So I prophesied as he commanded me.
So I preached as the Lord commanded me.
And the breath came into them.
And breath came into them.
And they lived.
And they lived.
And stood up upon their feet.
And they stood upon their feet.
An exceeding great army.
An exceeding great army.
South wind and preach to the east wind and preach to the west wind and tell the wind to blow on these bodies. And the preacher started preaching, said all winds, all four winds, said blow on these bodies that they may live. And when the preacher started preaching, the wind started blowing, and all of those dead bodies, they came alive. The Bible said, and they stood up on their feet, an exceeding great army. But I heard the preacher said to them, you've been here long enough. You've been down in Babylon long enough. You've been dead and dry long enough. You've been separated long enough. Now let's come out of this valley. Let's go back to Zion. I heard them say, follow me. It's time now for a new beginning. Enough is enough. It's time for a new beginning. Come on and follow me. I heard them singing, and they started to Jerusalem. We are marching to Zion.
Powerful.
I'm tired of America, so I'm hitting Richie on the net. I got the tickets, that's a bet. We need the link, my brother set it up. Damn, I didn't had enough. Ooh, I won't lie. Can I get a little shake with them fries? My skin tone is matching your eyes. Black men, you know we like them thighs. And baby, she can do it all. Your land is my land. Cut through.
Fire for your mind. The Kosher Clinician.
If it ain't seven, it ain't kosher. Heaven and hell, that's what they told you. Real men put the strap down and we can toss them. Young heads picking back up and young dolphins. This is our culture. Now we talking kosher. Clinician, masculinity issues. Absent fathers who miss you. Mama drama don't kiss you. All a part of the ritual. This is how they get you. Separate the men, women, clipping babies pretend to. Damn. Lovers, haters, acting like vultures. If it ain't seven, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, ain't right, gotta divorce us. If it ain't seven, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, ain't right, gotta divorce us. If it ain't seven, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, ain't right, gotta divorce us. This is kosher condition. 7 wonders, the whole world gotta listen. This is kosher condition. 7 wonders, the whole world gotta listen. This is kosher condition. 7 wonders, the whole world gotta listen. This is kosher condition. 7 wonders, the whole world gotta listen. Listen.
It's not my fault. You've been lying, saying that I took away your peace. Drowning by yourself, now you wanna blame me. Like you have no options. I ain't take your options. Nah, I'm not the problem. Man, that's on you, yeah. You've been terrorizing me, yeah, I'm always wrong. I knew you lost your mind when you dropped that bomb. Girl, are you crazy? Yeah, you must be crazy. I've been thinking lately it's you. You stole your peace, put it on me, but baby, it's you. Lie like a ride, but take your stuff back, baby, it's you. Whatever, and I would never. Yeah. You've been flexing everywhere. Girl, look in the mirror. Man, you so dirty. Yeah, you look so dirty. You were never worthy. Lately, it's you. You stole your peace, put it on me. But baby, it's you. Lying like a ride, but take your stuff back. Baby, it's you. Baby, it's you. If I control the weather, then every day would rain on your parade. Shine, you can't shed face, yeah. If I was Father Time, then I would change the day. So I never saw your face. Please, what do I have to do to make you go? Oh, baby, it's you. It's you. It's you. It's you. tried to count me out, I'ma gon' count me in. Fill up my bank account, now I got something to spend. They tried to count me out, I'ma gon' count me in. Fill up my bank account, now I got something to spend. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I just pull it out and count for nothing when I'm feeling great. Give my baby little more just to spend it, and I'm always on go, I don't hesitate. Used to always know I make it, yeah. I'll be me until I'm in the grave, yeah. See my record, had to set it straight, yeah. I make to kill like 10 times 10. I got wires coming in, some in euros, some in sec, some in dollars, some in yen. I've been trying to keep my zen, keep my cool. Trying to keep the family fed, get my food. They tried to count me out, I'ma gon' count me in. Fill up my bank account, now I got something to spend. They tried to count me out, I'ma gon' count me in. Fill up my bank account, now I got something to spend. Did it, do it. I did it all, no gimmicks. I did it all, no fibbing. Now I got all these children, now I got all these clones. Now I got all you twinning, now I got all you thinking like all you winning. They tried to count me out, they tried to fill that doubt. They tried to ride my wig, they tried to knock me out. They tried to count my wins, they tried to show my L's. They tried to make me in, they tried, but where they now? Where they? Step in the spot and they stare at me. All of these battles will bear me. I swear that nothing compares to me. Feeling blessed, I won't stress. Beat the odds, you know the rest. They tried to count me out, I'ma gon' count me in. Fill up my bank account, now I got something to spend. They tried to count me out, I'ma gon' count me in. Fill up my bank account, now I got something to spend.
All right, guys, we're signing off. And once again, thank you guys for tuning in. We're going to have a good show on tomorrow night as Crimson Cure and I will be talking about kosher hypergamy versus carnal hypergamy. Kosher hypergamy, men and women, is fit and proper. But there's a concept I created called carnal hypergamy, which is exploitative and which seeks to deny and destroy men and only see them as tools instead of seeing them as men, which in essence calls many guys to laugh all the way to the bank. We're signing off, guys, and once again, thank you for tuning in on tonight. Be well.
Laugh it to the bank like to the bank like I got it in 10s, 20, 50, 100s, 10s, 20, 50, 100s, 10s, 20, 50, 100s, 10s, 20, 50, 100s. Laugh it to the bank like pedal to the floor, need no brake lights. In the dark, watch it make light. I'm a star, got no stage fright. Please don't get me mad, I'm a nice guy. My baby say I'm cute, yeah, I'm tight fine. I be waking up when you go night-night. In a different zone with the time. Laugh it to the bank like
That's problematic, man, because in the multitude of counselors, there is safety. What say you?
Yeah, I got it in 10s, 20, 50, 100s, 10s, 20, 50, 100s, 10s, 20.
I flip it and continue. I've been going dumb, I've been going mental. Going up, I'm on another level. All black clothes like a medal. Little this and this, little Ricky Rick. It's my grandmama, I'm her Nicky Nick. I just wanna love, but I've been hit or miss. I might up and leave, then take a pic. Laugh it to the bank like ha 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 ha. Laugh it to the bank like ha 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 ha. I got it in 10s, 20, 50, 100s, 10s, 20, 50, 100s, 10s, 20, 50, 100s, 10s, 20, 50, 100s.